What you're about to hear was recorded in Berlin's Hansa Studios just 3 months ago. A sound engineer captured something on tape that defies explanation. David Bowie's unmistakable voice, singing a melody never released during his lifetime. The studio has been locked at midnight since 1977, when Bowie himself insisted something watched him work. Multiple witnesses have now testified to experiencing the same presence, always appearing during the creation of new music. But to understand what haunts these legendary walls, we must return to the winter of 1976. In September 1976, David Bowie arrived in West Berlin as a man fleeing his own demons. Fresh from Los Angeles, where cocaine addiction had nearly destroyed him, the 30-year-old artist sought anonymity and creative renewal in a divided city still scarred by war. He settled into a 7-room apartment at 155 Hauptstrasse in Schöneberg, sharing the space with his friend Iggy Pop. According to historical records from the Berlin Music Archive, Bowie chose the city specifically because no one would bother him there, and because its atmosphere of Cold War tension matched his internal turmoil. Hansa Studios, located at 38 Köthener Strasse, became Bowie's creative sanctuary. The building itself carried profound historical weight. Constructed in 1912 as a concert hall, it had survived both world wars and sat mere meters from the Berlin Wall. Contemporary accounts reveal that Bowie could see East German guards from the studio's second-floor windows, a constant reminder of division and surveillance that would deeply influence his work. The studio's main recording room, known as Hall 2, featured impossibly high ceilings and natural acoustics that gave recordings an almost cathedral-like quality. What few knew was the building's darker past. Official documentation shows that during World War II, the Gestapo had commandeered portions of the building for interrogations. The basement level, directly beneath where Bowie would record, had served as a detention area. Historical researcher Klaus Hartmann documented in his 1998 book, Berlin's Musical Shadows, that at least 17 prisoners died in that basement between 1943 and 1945, their deaths officially attributed to natural causes, though witness testimonies suggested otherwise. By the time Bowie began recording Low in October 1976, the studio had been renovated, but its bones remembered. The building's caretaker, Helmut Fischer, told the Berliner Zeitung in 1977 that he refused to enter certain areas after dark, claiming he heard voices speaking in languages I couldn't identify, always after midnight. Fischer's testimony was corroborated by multiple studio technicians who reported inexplicable cold spots and the sensation of being watched during late-night sessions. Bowie's intense creative process at Hansa Studios created what paranormal researchers call a psychic imprint. He worked obsessively, often recording from late evening until dawn, pushing himself and his collaborators to experimental extremes. Producer Tony Visconti documented that Bowie seemed possessed by something during these sessions, channeling emotions and sounds that felt otherworldly. The combination of Bowie's raw emotional state, the building's traumatic history, and the creative intensity generated an environment ripe for supernatural activity. The studio itself became a liminal space, situated between East and West, between past and present, between artistic life and the ghosts of war. Contemporary. Accounts reveal that Bowie spoke frequently about feeling other presences in the room, though he attributed this to his fragile mental state at the time. What he couldn't have known was that his creative energy was awakening something far older than his own troubled psyche, and that his eventual death in 2016 would create a new layer of haunting that continues to manifest today. On August 15, 2024, sound engineer Markus Weber stayed late at Hansa Studios to mix tracks for a German indie band. According to Weber's sworn testimony to the Berlin Paranormal Research Society, I was alone in Hall 2, working on track 7, when I heard it. A voice coming through the monitors that wasn't on any of our recordings. It was singing in English, a melody I'd never heard before, but the voice was unmistakable. It was David Bowie. Weber immediately stopped the playback and checked every input source. Nothing was connected except his laptop and the studio's digital interface. Yet the voice continued, now accompanied by what sounded like a synthesizer playing a minor chord progression. The temperature in the control room dropped so dramatically that I could see my breath, Weber testified. The voice sang the same verse 3 times. I'm still here in the walls, still here in the sound, the Starman never really came down. Then it stopped, and the temperature normalized within seconds. Shaking, Weber checked the building's security system. The footage showed him alone in the studio, but the audio from the security cameras captured the same phenomenon. Bowie's voice, clear and unmistakable, singing words that never appeared on any of his released albums. Weber saved the audio file and immediately contacted Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a musicologist at Humboldt University who had studied Bowie's Berlin period extensively. Dr. Mitchell analyzed the recording and confirmed. The vocal timbre, phrasing, and accent are consistent with David Bowie's voice from the late 1970s, but this melody doesn't exist in any known Bowie recording or bootleg. It's as if he's composing new music from beyond death. To understand Weber's experience, we must return to February 1977, when Bowie was recording Heroes, his second Berlin album. Studio assistant Petra Lehmann, now 72 and living in Hamburg, provided detailed testimony about what she witnessed during those sessions. According to Lehmann, David was recording vocals for the title track, doing take after take. Around 2 in the morning, he suddenly stopped mid-verse and removed his headphones. He looked terrified. He told us he heard someone singing harmony with him, a male voice he didn't recognize, singing in German. Producer Tony Visconti, who documented the incident in his 2007 memoir, Bowie, Bolin, and the Brooklyn Boy, wrote that Bowie insisted they listen to the playback. We all heard it, Visconti confirmed in a 2023 interview with Rolling Stone magazine. There was a second voice on the track, singing in German, though no one else had been in the vocal booth. The voice sang "held" repeatedly, the German word for hero. We couldn't explain it technically. David was convinced the studio was haunted. Lehmann's account continues. David refused to record in that room for the rest of the night. He told me he felt a presence standing behind him while he sang, and that it felt desperately sad, like someone trying to communicate something urgent. He asked me about the building's history, and when I told him about the war, about what happened in the basement, his face went pale. He said, "They're still here, aren't they? The ones who died here." The phenomenon escalated over the following weeks. Visconti documented multiple instances of unexplained occurrences. Microphones picking up whispered German phrases when no one was speaking, tape machines starting and stopping on their own, and the persistent sensation of being watched during late-night sessions. Engineer Edward Meyer testified that he witnessed Bowie having what appeared to be a one-sided conversation with empty air in the control room. He was speaking English, then switching to broken German, as if responding to someone, Meyer stated in a 1978 interview with Sounds magazine. When I asked who he was talking to, he said, "The man who keeps asking me to tell his story." The haunting entered a new phase after Bowie's death on January 10, 2016. Within weeks, Hansa Studios staff began reporting intensified paranormal activity. Studio manager Christina Hoffman documented 15 separate incidents between January and March 2016, all following a similar pattern. Artists working late would hear Bowie's music playing from empty rooms, see shadowy figures in the hallways, and experience overwhelming emotional sensations of grief mixed with creative urgency. Musician Anna Bergman was recording her debut album at Hansa in April 2016 when she experienced what she describes as a direct encounter. According to Bergman's testimony to Berlin's Tagesspiegel newspaper, I was in Hall 2 at midnight, exactly where Bowie recorded Heroes. I felt someone standing beside me, and when I turned, I saw a translucent figure, tall, thin, with distinctive features I recognized from photographs. It was David Bowie, or something that looked exactly like him. He pointed toward the wall where the Berlin Wall had stood, then vanished. I found myself crying uncontrollably, overwhelmed by a feeling of unfinished business. Dr. Heinrich Krauss, a physicist and paranormal researcher from the Technical University of Berlin, conducted electromagnetic field measurements at Hansa Studios in 2018. His findings, published in the Journal of Anomalous Phenomena, documented significant EMF spikes in Hall 2, particularly near the vocal booth where Bowie recorded. The readings were consistent with what we find in locations with documented paranormal activity, Dr. Krauss stated. More significantly, the spikes occurred in patterns that matched musical time signatures, 4/4 time, specifically, which was Bowie's preferred rhythm. The most compelling evidence came from security guard Thomas Richter, who has worked at Hansa Studios since 2010. Richter maintains a detailed log of unexplained incidents, with over 40 documented occurrences between 2016 and 2024. According to Richter's testimony, I see him regularly, always between midnight and 3 a.m., always in Hall 2. He appears as a shadow first, then becomes more defined. Sometimes he's young, like in the 70s. Sometimes he appears as he looked near the end. He never speaks, but he's always near the equipment, as if he's still working, still creating. Other times, he stands by the window, looking toward where the wall used to be, and there's such profound sadness in his posture. Multiple independent witnesses have corroborated similar experiences, creating a pattern that paranormal researchers find highly credible. The ghost appears to be both Bowie himself and something older, as if his creative presence merged with the existing haunting, creating a layered phenomenon that spans decades of trauma and artistic transcendence. Contemporary sightings at Hansa Studios continue with remarkable consistency. In September 2024, British producer James Morrison captured thermal imaging footage showing a human-shaped heat signature in Hall 2 at 1:47 a.m., despite the room being empty and locked. The footage, authenticated by forensic video analyst Dr. Lisa Chen, shows the figure moving toward the vocal booth before dissipating. Morrison testified, "I felt compelled to document what's happening here. The presence isn't threatening. It feels creative, urgent, as if it's trying to finish something." Recent witness testimonies reveal escalating activity. Vocalist Emma Schmidt reported that during her October 2024 session, she heard Bowie's Heroes playing backward through the studio monitors, with new lyrics emerging from the reversed audio. Sound technician Rafael Gomez documented mysterious audio artifacts appearing on digital recordings, synthesizer notes that match Bowie's Berlin-era style but were never played during the sessions. Local musician collective Die Berliner Geister has compiled over 30 verified accounts from 2023-2024 of artists experiencing supernatural guidance during creative blocks, describing a presence that shows them musical solutions through intuitive flashes. The pattern suggests ongoing paranormal activity directly connected to musical creation, with the entity appearing most frequently when artists work in experimental or emotionally vulnerable styles. Exactly the approach Bowie championed during his Berlin years. Perhaps David Bowie's ghost haunts Hansa Studios because his work there remains eternally unfinished. Not the albums themselves, but the spiritual transformation he sought in Berlin's divided shadows. The building remembers both wartime suffering and artistic transcendence, and Bowie's presence seems determined to bridge those realities through music. What songs is he still composing in those haunted halls? Subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below.